Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Lindo-Rice, and I will be reading for you today Chapter 5 of my next release, Tell Me Lies. And here is a picture of this beautiful cover, and it comes your way January 12th, 2016. I've already released the prologue and the first three chapters on my webpage, www.michelleLindorice.com. Please go there and check it out and also join my mailing list. Now I'm going to read for you chapter 5, and in this scene, you're going to meet Sydney and Noah as they're going out on their date. It's 5:30 in the morning. You'd better have a good reason for asking me to meet you here, Sydney said, rolling down the window on her driver's side. She stifled a yawn, especially since we were on the phone until midnight again last night. You'll see, Noah said. He tilted his head, pulling next to me. She did as he asked. Wake up, Sydney, she told herself as she exited the car. She was so not a morning person. She liked to squeeze every moment of her sleeping time. The alarm clock was not her friend. Noah looked bright eyed. She resisted the urge to see if he had a bushy tail behind those snug fitting blue jeans he wore. Noah gave her a brief hug and looked down at her feet. Good to see you're wearing sneakers. Yes, but only because you told me I had to. You know I like my heels. Her pink and purple Skechers matched her jumpsuit. Sydney shivered and wrapped her arms around herself. She squinted and pointed to a man across the field. We're not the only ones here. I'm surprised. That's where we're going. Noah took her hand. They trudged across the field. When they were close, Sydney froze. What's that? She asked, pointing to a colorful object on the ground. What does it look like? Noah asked. It's a hot air balloon. I thought we could see the sunrise together. He gave her a gentle tug, and they resumed walking. Sydney's heart rate increased. You want me to get inside a hot air balloon? I don't think so. Haven't you learned anything from talking to me the last 2 weeks? I'm not the adventurous type. You mentioned horseback riding, and I've been mentally preparing myself for that. She looked up. Your idea of catching the sunrise together is nice, but we can snuggle right here on the ground. I know you're scared, but live a little, Noah said. I've never done this before either, but I'm willing to try with you. By this time, they were close to where the pilot stood. He stretched out a hand to greet the both of them. Good morning. I see you're both dressed appropriately. Sydney thought he was way too chipper for that early in the morning. Then he addressed Noah. Did you bring sunscreen? Noah nodded. I have everything here. He patted his backpack. Sydney heard the engine. Her legs were butter. I don't know about this. Come on, Noah said. He beckoned to her with his hands. Take a chance. She bit her lip. Noah's words had a double meaning. For Sydney, it was not only about the hot air balloon. Could she take a chance on Noah as well? I've done this 1,000 times, the pilot chimed in. I promise you'll get the view of a lifetime. Sydney looked at Noah's expectant face. Then she squared her shoulders and placed her hand in his. She knew her palms were sweaty. Noah rubbed his thumb across hers. We'll be fine, you'll see. How far up are we going? Sydney asked, stepping closer to the box. She felt the warmth of the engine. The pilot smiled. About 3,000 feet. We'll go over the Peace River and the bridge. I never get tired of seeing God's handiwork. Hearing him use God's name made her take another step forward. How long will we be afloat? Sydney, stop asking so many questions, Noah said. Noah guided her into the box next to him. Sydney glanced around and her stomach unclenched slightly. It's bigger than I thought. This particular balloon can hold up to 6 people. We have some that can hold about 20 people. The pilot busied himself with getting them off the ground. Noah gestured to the small table and two chairs. There were silver platters on top. We'll have breakfast in the sky. Sydney lifted the platters and eyed the eggs and Belgian waffles. Her stomach growled. This is a lovely idea. I hope I won't be too nervous to eat. Noah took a seat and she did the same. Light jazz music filled the box. The pilot took his position and they ascended. Sydney clutched Noah's hand. He pulled her to stand and they went to the edge of the box. Sydney felt the wind across her face. She was glad she'd put her hair in a bun. Sydney leaned against Noah's chest. When you told me to wear sneakers, I thought we were going hiking or something. Never would I have imagined this. Noah squeezed her tight. I want us to experience new things together. A bird flew by. Wow, Sydney breathed. That was close. They were just above the treetops. Sydney looked down. It's beautiful. I just knew I'd be scared, but I'm enjoying this. She felt Noah's head nod. By then, the sun peaked above the horizon. The splash of orange and yellows made her breath catch. Sydney could only utter an eloquent, wow. There isn't anything like God's handiwork, Noah said. He pulled away. Let's eat. I'm hungry. Sydney laughed. She could stand there for hours and take in the scenery. But typical man, Noah's mind was on the food. She joined him. They prayed and blessed the meal. Sydney ate a small portion of eggs and a quarter of the waffle. Noah finished his and the rest of her meal. He poured orange juice in their flutes. The pilot had now guiding them over the water. He dipped low enough for them to spot the dolphins and manatees. Sydney knew her eyes were wide with wonder. She lost track of how many times she awed and oohed at the majestic view. Did you know dolphins are able to see inside the bodies of other dolphins and creatures? Noah asked. Sydney shook her head. No, I didn't know that. Yes, they are really amazing. I find them fascinating. The large curvature of their lens helps dolphins see inside and outside of the water. He patted his nose. Their signature whispers that they use to communicate and identify themselves. They have signature whispers that they use to communicate and identify themselves. Scientists believe they call each other by names like we do. I'm impressed, she said. I could spout more facts, but I don't want to bore you. Sydney shook her head. She doubted she'd ever find Noah boring. He was too charming for that. I love learning and I love a knowledgeable man. Where did you go to college? Her brows forward. I'm taking it for granted. I should have asked if you're a college graduate. Noah nodded. I went to Liberty University and earned my bachelor's online. I took a few counseling classes, but I haven't gone any further. I went to college in my late 20s after I earned my GED. He reached for his backpack. But experience is still my best teacher, and I learned a lot about being a man from my grandfather. Noah looked at his watch. It's almost time for us to land. So, tell me about your family. It's just Mom and me, she said. My father died before I was even born. Mom said he was an athlete. It must have been hard growing up without your father. It was fine. I had a lot of love and a great childhood. She swung her head his way for a second. What about your parents? Noah appeared to tense up before her. They did the best they could. 6 words? That's all he had to say about his parents? He must have seen the question in her eyes. I know I'm not saying much, but I know they loved me. He smiled. They spoiled me rotten. That's why their death shattered me. I would have lost my way if it weren't for Gramps. Did you always know you wanted to be a pastor? He gave an awkward chuckle. No way. I was messed up for a couple years after my parents' death. I joined up with the wrong crowd until Gramps came and set me straight. I always have the gift of gab, though, so to speak. When I spoke, people listened. My pastor saw it and took me under his wing. How did Gramps set you straight? At her question, she noted Noah clenching his fists. You don't have to answer that. It's one of my bad habits as a lawyer. I'm always questioning everybody and everything. He gave an awkward smile before looking away. Sydney wanted to ask him more about his parents, but Noah seemed uncomfortable. She wouldn't ruin their day. Besides, her mind was registering one important fact. She looked down. They were heading close to a field in Punta Gorda. This isn't where we parked. Isn't he taking us back? Noah shook his head. No, they have chasers following our path. The pilot will give them a general location when we land. Then we'll get a ride back to our cars. That makes sense, Sydney said. I had a great time. There were no distractions, no crowds, just you, me, nature, and God. And the pilot, Noah supplied. Oh, yeah, thank God for him, Sydney chuckled. What I'm trying to say is, if I'm going to be thousands of feet in the air, I'm glad it was with you. I feel the same. Noah looked into her eyes. Trying something new isn't so bad, is it? Sydney crooked her head. She knew by his expression he was talking about more than the hot air balloon. This was about their dating outside their races. She drew close to him and rested her head on his shoulders. Trying something new is better than I could ever imagine. Thanks so much for listening to Chapter 5 of Tell Me Lies. I'm going to ask that you please click that order button and enjoy.